In this session, we'll take a look at creating directories within Subversion. Change directory so that your current working directory is the root of the MO3 L05 working copy. Create a new directory called new directory using the standard operating system mkdir command. As with adding new files, creating a new directory in the working copy does nothing to the repository. If we use the subversion info command to check the state of the current working directory, we'll note that it's mapped to the MO3 L05 repository, specifically the trunk directory within that repository, and that it's currently updated to revision 1. Looking at the repository information in blue on the right, you'll notice that the repository is currently at revision 16, and that the trunk directory was last changed in revision 16. This means that our current working copy is out of date with respect to the repository. If we want the subversion list command to show the contents of the trunk directory as it currently exists, we have two choices. One is to specify the URL directly on the list command line. The other is to use the list command, but specifying a -r revision option. Specifically, we specify the -r head. Head is a special keyword within Subversion that indicates that we want the latest revision, whatever that might be. We'll look in detail at the various keywords that can be used to identify revisions later in the course. For now, we're interested in the fact that the subversion ls command, if we issued it without the revision identity, would report the list of files contained within the repository at MO3 L05 trunk, that is the URL that is mapped to our current working directory, as they were at the revision returned by the info command, namely revision 1. To force the ls command to return the listing of files in the latest revision of the trunk, but still specifying a working copy path, we have to use the -r option. Executing the command shows that, indeed, the latest revision of trunk does not contain the new directory that we've just created. As with when we added files, adding directories is a three-step process. First, we have to create the directory that we want to be added. Then we use the svn commands to add the directory. And finally, we commit those changes from our working copy back into the repository. Showing the status of our working copy, the Subversion client shows that there are two elements which are not under version control. The msg.txt was used in an earlier example to supply the log message to our commit. The second item, the new directory, is the directory we've just added with the mkdir command. As we're no longer interested in the msg.txt, we'll just delete it. And we can use the subversion status command to quickly confirm that the msg.txt has indeed been removed, and that the only thing showing as unversioned now is the new directory that we've created. To schedule the new directory to be added in the next commit to the repository, we can use the same command as we did with files, svn add. This time, however, instead of specifying a file, we simply specify the new directory that we want to be added. As with files, the add command shows that it has scheduled the new directory to be added the next time we do a commit. To be absolutely clear, the add command does nothing to our repository. We can confirm this with the list command. This time we're using the list command and specifying a URL to refer directly to the repository. Because we're referring directly to the repository, the list command will contain the contents of the trunk directory as it is in the latest revision, in this case revision 16. So we can see the results of the list command show that there is no new directory in the repository at the moment. Showing the status of our working copy now confirms that the new directory has indeed been scheduled to be added the next time that we commit changes to our repository. Let's use the subversion commit command to now commit those changes into the repository. In this instance, I'm not providing any log message on the command line, so the commit command is referring to my editor command, starts up the appropriate text editor, and prompts me to supply the log message. Notice that the one action that is being committed is the one that was shown in our status command earlier, the new directory addition. Once we save the log message file, the commit command completes and confirms that it is adding the new directory to our repository, and this has created revision 17. Once again, using the list command specifying the URL within the repository that we want listing, we can see that now the latest version of trunk within the MO3 L05 repository does in fact contain the new directory that we've just created. And running status on our working copy confirms that there are no outstanding actions against our working copy, so the new directory has been committed into the repository and is now a versioned item. In this session, we're going to look at adding nested directories. Make sure you do a change directory so that your current working directory is the root of the mo3 lo5 working copy. Now we're going to change directory once more so that we're in the new directory, the one that we created in the previous session. The new directory begins completely empty. So we'll run a series of commands to create a directory structure and some files to occupy it. None of the files and directories that we've just created are version copies yet. It's worth noting that the new directory itself is a working copy and is in fact mapped to revision 17 of the trunk new directory within the repository. Doing a directory listing shows that the various files and directories do indeed exist. Running the subversion status command results in exactly one line of output, reporting that the with files is an unversioned directory. Normally, the status command works recursively, but because with files is not yet a working copy, the status can't recurse into it, so all the files and directories within it remain hidden to the subversion status command. As in the previous session, using the subversion add command, we schedule the with files directory to be added on the next commit to the repository. You'll notice that the add command operates recursively. As soon as the with files directory itself is added, the subversion add command will recurse into it, looking for all the directories and all of the files that are contained within with files, scheduling those to be added also. Running the subversion status command on the current working directory now reveals that with files has been added, as have all the files and directories that are contained within it. Rather than committing these scheduled additions as they currently stand, we're going to use the subversion revert command to undo those scheduled additions. We'll look at the revert command in detail when we look at undoing uncommitted changes. For now, think of the revert command as an undo command. The depth equals infinity option is required to make the revert command work recursively on the directory, and the directory we want to revert is the with files. So the revert command has reported that it is reverted the with files, and a subversion status command confirms the fact that the with files is now seen as an unversioned object once again. The reason that we've reverted this directory is so that I can show you the use of the depth option with the add command. In this command we specify a depth of empty. When specifying a depth option of empty, the add command acts only on the path specified, in this case the with files directory. So whereas the default behavior would add with files and all of the files and directories that it contains within it, the add command with the depth option of empty adds only the with files directory. Repeating the svn status command on the current working directory shows that the with files directory itself has been scheduled for addition. Now that the with files directory is scheduled for addition, the status command can recurse into it. So it shows the nested dir, file 1 and file 2. Nested dir itself, of course, is not a working copy, so the status command doesn't recurse into it and show nested1.txt. We use the svn revert command to once again undo the changes scheduled against the with files directory, and repeat the add command on the with files directory, this time specifying a depth of immediates. This time round, you'll notice that the add command schedules the with files directory itself, the file1.txt, file2.txt, and the nested directory to be added the next time we perform a commit on this working copy. Performing an svn status on the working copy now shows that the with files directory, the two files that are contained within it, and the nested directory also contained within with files are reported as scheduled to be added. Now that the nested dir directory within with files is scheduled to be added, the status command reports that nested1.txt is now an unversioned item contained within a version controlled directory. And once again, we'll undo all of those scheduled additions by using the revert command. With this add command, we're explicitly specifying the depth option of infinity. In actual fact, the depth option of infinity is the default behavior of the add command when specifying directories. When the command is executed, the with files directory and all of the nested files and directories it contains are scheduled to be added in the next commit. And now the status command shows that all of the files and directories within the with files directory have in fact been scheduled to be added. Using the commit command, we will commit all of the changes that are currently scheduled within this directory and below. So as the commit command shows, we're adding the with files directory, the file1.txt it contains, the file2.txt it contains, the nested directory, and the nested1.txt. These have all been added and are committed to the repository as revision 18. And we can use the svn list command to confirm that the trunk new directory within the mo3 lo5 repository does in fact contain the with files directory. In this session, we'll take a look at another way of creating directories. If you've carried on from the previous session, you should be in the new directory working copy. If not, then make sure that you're in the mo3 lo5 new directory. Once there, we can do a directory listing to confirm that the only entry is the with files directory created in the previous session. In the first session looking at creating directories, we used the operating system's mkdir command. In this session, we're going to use the Subversion subcommand mkdir. This is very similar to the mkdir of most operating systems in that it creates a directory. However, the Subversion make directory command creates the directory and schedules it to be added in the next commit. It's basically the equivalent of using the operating system to create the directory and then using svn add to add the directory we've just created. The svn make directory does this in one single operation. When we execute the Subversion make directory command, the output is identical to when we do an svn add on an existing directory. The difference being, of course, that the another dir directory did not exist before we ran the svn mkdir. Listing the contents of the current directory now, we see that in addition to the with files, the svn mkdir has created another dir. And the Subversion status command shows that the another dir is scheduled to be added the next time we run an svn commit. And running the commit works exactly as you'd expect. It adds the directory another dir to the new directory within the repository, creating revision 19 of the repository. We can use the list command on the trunk new directory to confirm that this new directory has been added in the repository. So we have two directories in our working copy directory, another dir and with files. What if we want to create a deep dir with a subdirectory called new directory? We could of course use a series of svn mkdir commands, or we could manually create the directory structure and then use the svn add command. However, there is a quicker way. The Subversion mkdir command can be used and the nested directory specified on the command line. However, there is a problem. If we try to use the Subversion make directory to create a nested directory structure in this way, we'll receive an error message. The error message is quite informative. It suggests that we try using the ---- parents option. So let's do that now. We'll use the same basic Subversion make directory command as before, but this time we'll specify the parents option. The parents option essentially requests that the Subversion client create any intermediate directories that are required. And as you might be expecting, the Subversion status shows that we have in fact added deep dir and within that the new directory. And we update the repository with our Subversion commit command.